Welcome to the playground. I am your host, Eddie Fluellen, and as I always have all my guests and all that, I'm always honored to have everybody on the show, and who I have coming up is no exception, Gussie Miller, homeboy from Ohio. And let me tell you, I wrote this down because I mean, there's nothing that this man has not done in the business. I mean, we're talking from, as a matter of fact, I'll go down, whatever I'm missing, you correct me, you throw it in. I have tech, I have consultant, engineer, has worked in administration, background vocalist, even retail, performer, recording artist, instrumentalist, you know, and we can see the keyboards back there. Let's start with that because I mean, you play, there's like a whole list of stuff that you do play. What is your main instrument?
Thank you. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I appreciate that.
Thank
Hello,
you. Thank
Playground
you.
listeners.
And of course, and again, thank you for being on. I'm really glad you could make us. Thank you.
You know, this is a treat for me. It's a riot because, you know, as we'll talk later, this is just hilarious. You know, we'll have to talk about how we met, and then I'll talk about how I got you know, familiar with your music. But to your point, yeah, I do a bunch of things, but my schooled instrument, my actual schooled instrument that I tortured my parents with was I'm actually a drummer by schooling.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, God bless him. You know, my father, who comes from a very musical family, you know, I have an aunt that was a choir and a high school music teacher. I have an uncle who was a college music professor. You know, of course, I've got cousins that are in the business. And to make a long story short, you know, I really wanted to play piano. But, you know, we only had like one spinet piano in the house.
The spinet,
That's
yes.
the spinet piano, that's right. And what was so funny about it was I have this vivid memory of my mother telling me that I was playing too hard. You're hitting the keys too hard. So I went from that to, you know, when I bought my first drum set with my own money. And then I remember my mother, who was one of the first people I knew who had an American Express. She actually loaned me the money, you know, to put my cymbals, which were from Sabian, actually. That was back in the day when, do you remember, well, of course, you know, I'll just start at the beginning. I'm a huge Kenny Loggins fan, okay, because when I was working for the county of Los Angeles, when I was still in school, I'm sorry, county of Los Angeles, county of Franklin County in Columbus, Ohio, because I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I remember we were painting a wall one summer, and I was inside the county building, and there was a woman playing like you know, some music or whatever, and I wondered what that was. And I heard this really cool, like 12/8 figure, and that's because at the time I was studying, you know, so. And I heard, you know, and I thought, okay, what's this? This is kind of cool. And it turned out it was Kenny Loggins' "Love Has Come of Age." And I was like, well, what is this? She's like, well, that's Kenny Loggins. And she was, first of all, she was fine because she was a mature woman. And I was like, well, hello. And she gave me the cassette. This will tell you how long ago it was. It was a cassette. That just changed my world, because that basically made me into a songwriter. Between Stevie Wonder and Kenny Loggins, that's how it came about. And because of that, I was like blown away with the drummer who ended up becoming a good friend of mine. His name is Tristan Bowden. And, you know, I'd actually, you know, gotten to meet Tris several times at the Ohio State Fair. Remember the Ohio State Fair?
Now, let me interrupt you there, because I know Gussie's going to go through a list of like all these people that he knows. You're just missing Tristan Bowden. I'm a huge fan of Tristan Bowden, especially what he did with Chicago.
Oh, of course.
When you mention these names, you got to like let us know like who these people.
Oh, of course.
Because I mean, these are huge names that
Kenny Loggins kind of brought him to prominence, but before that, he was actually in a Southern California band called Honk.
Oh wow! Okay, now is that before? Is that before the Loggins? Kenny. Is that before Loggins and Messina?
That was well, actually, he wasn't really the drummer in Loggins Messina. That was another cat. Because Jimmy Messina kind of had his own rhythm section, and then he joined after, you know, leaving Honk to the Loggins band, and then that's when the Loggins Alive thing happened, and right around the time that they had cut, I think, as a matter of fact, I think he's on Night Watch, which had Whenever I Call You Friend on there as well, and just an amazing musician and a super nice guy. So that's kind of how I became really interested in the drumming thing. Plus, I had grown up around some guys. I'm just going to give some props to my old Columbus friends, because people always say when you quote unquote come into success, you forget about where you come from. Well, I never do. And there was a very good friend of mine named Jim Bott and the Bott family. They were a wonderful musical family, and everybody played something. And Jim was an amazing drummer. And I was a singer in that band back when we were in school. And he was a huge Phil Collins fan. So he turned me on to Phil Collins. So that just kind of just, and that's where the drumming thing came into play. So piano is an extension of my drumming because it's a percussion instrument. And
Okay,
then,
right.
you know, when my father, who refused to let me go to music school because he's like, that's not a job for a black man, because he was frustrated. You know, he worked for the government and, you know, what are you going to do?
Okay.
So he actually was convinced by my mother to allow me to go to a performing arts high school, which is very much like the Fiorello LaGuardia School, the Fame School in New York, but it's based in Columbus and it's called the Fort Hayes School of Performing Arts. So his deal was, look, I'll let him go to school and study arts as long as he takes a quote unquote technical skill, which was radio and television production. So at that particular time, that's how it all kind of came about and how I became what they call a multi-hyphenate. Whereas I was musical, obviously, and I could play the drums and I could play a little piano. But what really happened is when I got to Fort Hayes and started doing the radio and television production, they had a huge program. I'm talking real, like, you know, Sony cameras and Berkey color trend lighting and, you know, we still console. We were doing real TV. But across the hall was what was calling to me. And that was, you know, the voice department. That was Ray Marie Swart. Hey, Miss Swart, if you're still around. Richard Early, who I think is now still the director of the symphony in Columbus. And then also Dr. Philip Wilson. I can't forget Dr. Wilson, because it was Dr. Philip Wilson who actually came to my house and talked my father into letting me come, because he was the theater instructor and he had seen me as a, wait for it, there's another facet, I was a child actor because I was doing television on WBNS TV.
Okay. Now, before you go any further, you mentioned you were a child actor. Now, all this stuff is going on. About how old, do you remember how old you were when all this was, when you were doing
Well, you know, it's funny that you say that. Starting out, I mean, I would say probably at least 11 or 12 was when I was really, you know, maybe even a little bit earlier, because the first show that I did in Columbus was called Schoolies. And I've been trying to track this down. And I'm blessed to have a lot of really old footage of myself back when I was in high school. That
is a blessing, believe me.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, but
I wish I had some of mine.
You have to be strong, because people will say stuff. Because that was back when I had like an afro and I had giant Superfly glasses.
Right.
Yeah, you know, there was nothing cool about me back in that day. And I was really wickedly skinny. People were like, oh my, you know, you work out, you're buff, blah, blah, blah.
What?
You know? And I'm like, no, I was like, when I moved to California, I was a 36, like 30 inch, like waist.
Yeah.
36 inches. So I was a stick. But back in the day, yeah, I think I started doing WBNS, and then I did a show called The Judge, which was actually in syndication at the time. It was Judge Robert Franklin. And of course, because it was the 70s, I was always, you know, black delinquent number 1, you know, black delinquent number 2, you know, so it was that. And then, just to kind of move on, and how did I get from that to music? I was blessed to meet some friends who were doing a show called Columbus Goes Bananas. And Columbus Goes Bananas was being shot out at the Westland Mall in Columbus, on the west side of Columbus. And that ended up moving from just a local show that was on a two-way television service called Cube, Q-U-B-E. And it was the first variety show picked up by Nickelodeon, which was new at the time. And it became America Goes Bananas. So I became a member of what they call the Bananas Gang. And we were basically just a bunch of local kids who did skits and we did contests and so on and so forth. And then, of course, I started getting fan mail. And after that, you know, when you're on cable networks and you're getting fan mail, and I think I might have been 16, maybe 17. Yeah, of course, you're.
And Nickelodeon, I mean, you're in on the ground floor. I mean, it's
pretty much, that's right. Yeah, it was the first Nickelodeon variety show. So, you know, we did a lot of lip syncs and stuff. And of course, when we would kind of sit around in between the tapings of the shows, because we would always do them, you know, 2 or 3 at a time on Saturdays and on Sundays. And side note, one of the funniest things, see, I warned you, one of the funniest things about this is that I am in contact with one of the producers who was the coolest lady back then, and super fine back in the day as well. And she is now like one of the, like, she's an award-winning, Emmy-winning, like, reporter. She's a lawyer on CBS, like 48 Hours. Okay, so there's that. Okay.
Can you say a name, or is that not?
Well, I guess I can. It's Erin Moriarty.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we've been buds for a long time, and she used to let me get away with murder. And I love the fact that when I reached out to her, she's like, "Oh my God, it's Gussie." So we tweet each other stuff back and forth. It's hilarious.
That's sweet.
I haven't been able to see her in a while, but the next time I go back east, I'm definitely going to look her up because she's super, super cool. And the executive producer of that show is a guy named Bert Dubrow. And Bert created, wait for that, he created Sally Jesse Raphael and Jerry Springer.
What?
Yeah, so I've had quite an interesting experience with that. And then
That's
through
right.
that, yeah.
Jerry Springer, it's Cincinnati, right?
Oh yeah. Oh,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, Ohio.
Oh yeah,
Ohio,
yeah. See, and everybody jokes about Ohio being flyover country, but it's hipper than it looks. Especially when you start talking about where you're from, where I'm from, you know, Cincinnati, Dayton, because all that funk down there. And of course, that's a whole other thing. Because, you know, I was doing bananas and I was hanging out with, you know, different guys, you know, like Chris Powell, you know, from Cocoa Pop, I remember back in the day, those things. And people were like, you know, Dad, you know, you can sing, right? So I am a graduate, actually, of high school of Marion Franklin, so Red Devils. And I remember one of the coolest things, this is where it gets interesting, is that I always thought I could sing, you know, because there was a song by a guy named Jonathan Edwards back in the day. Do you remember Jonathan Edwards?
Why does that name sound familiar? I know that
he
name.
had a single called "Sunshine Go Away." Sunshine go away today.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, right.
Right. And my uncle.
Oh my gosh, really, I remember that.
Dude, you have no idea. You opened Pandora's box because my uncle Richie, who was married to my mother's sister, Claudia, God rest her soul. He used to come, you know, to the house with his sons, and he heard me sing one day, and he's like, dude, you really can sing. You should do this. This is something you should do. And it was because of him hearing me sing along to that record. Now, flash forward to years later, and I find out through my family that his son is a member of a, like, award-winning
Jonathan Edwards' son.
Group. No.
Oh.
This is Rich. This is my Uncle Richie's son.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry.
And, you know, there's Ricky and Randy, and, you know, Randy ended up being a rapper in a band called, what's it called? It's called Gangsta Grass. And if you've never heard of this, you got to check it out. Okay. Because they have a huge
Gangsta Grass
following. And it's like groundbreaking stuff, because basically what it is it's bluegrass music to hip hop beats with an acoustic guitar player and a banjo player, and then two rappers. And they had the theme song to Justified. So people always say, well, how did you end up being such a great singer? I said, well, you know, it kind of runs in the family. So, you know, it is what it is. So
Gangsta Grass.
Doing that. Gangsta Grass. Oh, yeah. And they're bad. Matter of fact, I think they have like the #1 bluegrass record in the country right now, I think.
Currently. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw something. He just posted something on Facebook about them being on the Billboard chart. So, you know, I'm very proud to have a family that's very musical. So once again, flash forward, you know, my father was like, you know, you got to go to school and you got to study music and blah, 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 blah. This is after.
Oh, so now I was going to say, so now your dad is on board as far as you being a musician?
Well, I wouldn't say he was on board. Let's just say that he was like.
But mom definitely was. Yeah,
well, mom was always on board. And of course, what happened is that, you know, he's like, you know, you should stay here in Ohio. I'm like, I don't want to stay here in Ohio. I want to go to Boston. I want to go to Berklee College of Music. I want to go to, you know, to New York to go to Juilliard. So I want to get out of here, you know. Nothing against Columbus, but old, right? It's, you know, it's hip in spots, but it can be kind of square around the edges, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And by that time, I'm already talking to, well, I'm going to go way back. Do you remember like Fifth Floor Recording Studio? Okay.
I do not. I'm sorry.
It was like, you know, Dayton, Cincinnati area. There was a friend of mine who was a major engineer at that time named Robin Jenny. And Robin had mixed all that stuff, no parking on the dance floor. And, you know, he was working with Roger Troutman and Zapp. And he was just
in Dayton,
man.
In Dayton, Ohio.
That's right. So
shout out to Dayton, Ohio, because everything was happening down there. As a matter of fact, I just interviewed Steve Arrington.
Oh, my God. Of course.
Yeah, Janetta Warren with Zapp, speaking of Zapp. And David R. Webb.
Steve Arrington, oh my God, you know.
Oh yeah, David R. Webb, who owns the Funk Music Hall of Fame.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So we used to do our Steve Arrington impersonation. Make me shine just a little bit, just a little bit.
Hey, hit making.
Oh yeah, and of course that stuff was banging, you know.
Totally.
And you know,
and Zapp, all of them.
Or bounce to the ounce.
Yep.
All that stuff. And then of course, so you say, well, how did this music thing happen? Because I'm at Marion Franklin, and you know, we used to ride the bus until my parents bought me a car, because we were bourgeois black, so I had a car, you know, at 16. And you know,
what kind of car was it? Do you remember?
What do you say?
Do you remember the car?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a Chevy Vega. It was a stick.
And the stick
with blue pinstripes. Oh no, I was flying.
You remember?
Because I was, but then I realized, well, I can't shift like this. So I
was gonna say, in your Chevy Vega.
That's right. Now, people who see this in Columbus will be laughing their butts off. But so
now.
That's right. Now, that's right. That's right now. So now, of course, before I got the car, of course, I had to ride the bus. Mm-hmm. And we lived on the southeast side of Columbus. So it was, a long enough ride, but not too long. Mm-hmm. And I remember, and this is where you guys come in, because I think the switch thing happened around 77, 78, right?
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Right. Yep. So, of course, they had "There'll Never Be."
Yes. Yes.
There'll never be a better life. There'll never be. Right, and all that.
Yeah.
So, of course, kids would hear me sing that, up in that range, and be like,
I'd be like,
yeah, 50 cents. So that's when I realized that singing, you could make money, because I wouldn't sing it unless they paid me.
Wow. Okay.
Every now and then I break down, I'd do it for a quarter, but usually I do it for 50 cents. So that's when I realized, hey, there's this singing
I can make some money at this. Next week it'll be $1.
So that's how it all happened, and it all kind of happened in Columbus. And
Switch because Switch
and because of Switch, yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, great stuff. So of course, when flash forward many years and records and TV shows and stuff like that in between, we have a mutual friend, as you know, who was a bass player, and this is the funniest stuff in the world. I edited that because I figured this is a family show, but I had. Flash forward many years and many experiences later, I had moved to Los Angeles, and I am working at a music store. You mentioned music retail. Yes. I actually worked in music retail when I was still in high school at a company called Coil Music in Columbus, Ohio. So I got a shout out to the Coil family, because I was the only black thing up in there, and they weren't afraid to hire me. So God bless.
There you go.
That was a big thing in Columbus.
Yeah.
Especially at that time. And shout out to, amazing Columbus musicians like Neil Andrews, who I think Neil lives in Nashville now. He was a keyboard player at a band called Panorama, as well as Jim Miller, who actually now lives out here and is known as Jazz Miller, and is like a smooth jazz guitar player and just burning. First Chapman stick player I'd ever seen.
Wow.
So I'm flash forward, because of having some retail background, I had actually gotten this gig at a place called Goodman Music. Okay, it was on
Goodman. That's a big one, right?
Well, it was a big one. It was very big. Yeah, Joe was like the ball. He was balling before like West LA Music was balling.
Okay.
West LA Music was huge, as you know.
Right.
And this is kind of before the Guitar Center gigantic thing, and way before Sweetwater and all that. Nothing personal,
No, not at all.
I've known Chuck for years too. So to make a long story short, I'm in there, and at that time I was kind of messing around with trying to build a band. And this, you talk about some names, there's some names are going to pop up here, but our mutual friend, whose name is KC Hunter, actually gets off of a bus with his bass and his bass amp because he had just moved to Los Angeles, and walks in and announces to the assemblage, anybody need a good bass player up in here?
What?
I was thinking, okay, who's this guy?
Oh, right. Now you mentioned his bass amp. This is when bass amps were kind of like big.
Yeah, he had, I think it was.
I mean, they're not small at all.
Well, no, actually, he had a really nice. It was. I want to say Goliath, but I don't think that was it. But it was one of those ones that it was small enough that you could carry, and it was like a gig amp. I remember it had like a 12, I think, and a tweeter or something.
Okay.
And I was well, can the brother play? And he literally plugged the stuff in and started playing. I'm like, okay.
What?
He's a go-getter. And of course, many years later, one of my dearest, best friends. He's doing a thing. I'm actually working for. I'm still in music retail. I'm working for Sennheiser as a technical representative, and we're doing a thing in Las Vegas. And I said, well, how can we get a great band? We need somebody that is easy to work with and is professional and blah blah blah. So I called KC, and KC's, oh yeah, man, I'll put together a band. So of course, we're at the House of Blues of all things, and this is way before the crazy John Paddock thing, right? And right. And there we are on the stage of the House of Blues. The crew and the sound people could not have been nicer. It was me and my friend Brian Walker, who was a brilliant technician. And there you were.
Oh, wow.
In the band. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this brother looks familiar. And Casey said, oh yeah, man, that's the guy from Switch, you know, and yeah, you know, and yeah, he's one of them guys, he's on, you know, They'll Never Be. And I'm like, really? And I remember you started playing the changes, and I just lost my mind, dude. I went right back to
and started singing and jumped right in. Yep.
Oh yes.
Jumped right in.
There's that. So anyway,
that whole cause was awesome, by the way. That whole cause was awesome. I just want to mention that whole cause was awesome, by the way. I mean, the reason for that particular show. If you can explain that, I really, you know, talk about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, as I remember, let's think here.
It was for like up and coming like engineers or techs or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's right. And that was a Sound Girls event. And
I love that. I thought it was that was awesome.
Yeah. Sound Girls was started by an incredible engineer who actually works with Eddie Vedder and his band. And that's Carrie Keys. Super cool. Shout out to Carrie. And basically, Brian Walker, who was my counterpart at Sennheiser, has supported that organization for many, many years. And we basically put together all the gear. And I have to send love and respect to my friends. And of course, I'm also an endorsee of Group One Digico. Because they provided the consoles, and of course Sennheiser provided all of the wireless microphones.
Stop right there.
Oh, there you go. Right, there you go. Branding. There you go. Fabulous. There you go. Fabulous.
These are my headphones. These are for the show. So anyway.
Oh no, that's cool. That's a beautiful.
These came from you. So thank you, sir.
Oh right. Okay. Well, there you go. Well, thank you. Well, don't thank me. Thank Sennheiser. Yeah. Actually, thank Brian, because Brian was able to get more gear for the musicians than I was. So I'd always be like, oh, you know, they've said, well, what were you thinking? This is going to cost us? I don't know. You have to talk to Brian about that. I don't know. Brian is the one who knows
totally hooked us up, man. And like I said, I love you. So thank you. And you know what? They make incredible gear. So they do.
So there's that. So yeah, that whole thing was set up so that we could help young female engineers who don't get as much love in our industry as they should.
That's true.
You know, get hands-on experience, and you know, it's one thing to kind of teach it. And of course, as you mentioned, I have been a technician, a clinician, and a pro engineer for many years. I've been blessed to work for some pretty serious companies, like ATK Audio Tech. You know, and when you're working around people that are of that caliber at that level, you know, you're doing, you know, the Emmys, the Grammys, the Oscars, you know, Jimmy Kimmel, so on and so forth. You pick up a lot of stuff, but sadly, there just aren't that many people of color. Yes, I said it. And there aren't that many women, as a matter of fact.
Right. Agreed.
I mean, in all my years of doing audio professionally, ran into maybe one or two. And I worked for many years in like, I guess you'd call it rental or equipment assistance. I work for a company called Wexler Video, so I've done a ton of television shows, reality shows. This is actually before I joined IATSE, which is the broadcast union, audio union. And I work with a woman by the name of Jenny Green, who is one of the baddest, you know, television mix engineers, you know, going. And I had like no clue that there were women who were as bad as Jenny was. And she was the one who kind of opened my eyes. And then because of that and her mentorship to me, I was able to pass that on to other people.
Gotcha.
And now, of course, I know people like Lenise Bent and other people who are incredible, you know, engineers who happen to be women.
Okay, quick, because you touched upon that as far as, you know, women in the business and people of color in the business. Do you see that, and especially like that part of it, do you see that like where we are now, do you see that changing? Is it a slow change? Is it a quick change? I mean, do you see it in your experience changing?
It's a slow change. I mean, and to be incredibly,
but it is happening now.
And slightly un-PC, I'll just say that you have to, and this is something that I'm obviously known for. Some people will say, well, he's kind of cocky and he's full of himself and blah, blah. Okay. And, you know, and guess what? That might be true. But here's the thing. When you know that you're good and you have been mentored by some of the best, and you are a person of color, sometimes you have to just stick your foot in the door to get the crack open and then refuse to let the door close, because they will close the door on you. So there's that. You also have to come correct. So you have to have the technical acumen and the background and the experiences. And I'm just one of the few people who has that. And because
I can vouch for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, literally.
Totally.
Yeah, and then of course I come from it as well. And I don't know if you dug this part up, and this is the part that always freaks people out. I'm still a federal contractor, and I was a contractor for NASA, so I've done a whole.
I
bunch
did
of
not know
research.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm a huge NASA fan, so we definitely have to talk.
Yes. Well, what's funny is that when you're me, it's so weird because my online profile makes me look like I'm worth a gazillion dollars. As a matter of fact, there are actually websites out there that show that my net worth is many millions of dollars. Well, I'm not worth that. So I'm doing okay, but I'm not worth that. And
are you 1,000 there? 100,000 there?
Well, especially considering what a certain person is going through in the media right now, I'm not talking about that. But
gotcha.
Let's just say
right.
this. The point is that I have been blessed to have had a lot of real serious technical background, and then also had the musical background. And what's funny is that when people Google me, which they do, and I'm talking even like if I meet a beautiful woman and they were interested in dating me, everybody looks you up to make sure you're not a felon. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, having involvement with the feds makes you squeaky clean, as you know, because they will look up your keister. There's that.
Right.
And I'm also FBI affiliated, and I'm not afraid to say that. My friends in federal law enforcement, and by the way, the feds are way more diverse than local law enforcement. And that's one of the problems at local law enforcement, is that it needs to be more diverse in terms of leadership, because it's kind of like, I look at it like, just to talk about faith for a second. It's like when you look at what's going on in quote unquote the Christian community, many African Americans have been in church and worship situations where they've been led by a white person. Most white people have never been in a church situation where they've been led by a black person. That's where you get right to the core. That's where we're talking about it. It's kind of like you can look and see, and one of my pet peeves about our business in terms of music is concerned, is that me as a person who's been on both sides and has successes on both sides, as an audio engineer, as a producer, as a musician, and as an artist, when I walk on the stage, like, and I did the singing bee, which, a lot of people know me from, because something like 50 million people, and that's no exaggeration, saw that, because I'm on the first episode of the singing bee, with Joey Fatone and blah, 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 right? That would be, what's his face? Ray Chu, who was musical director of that show, who was brilliant, by the way. It was super cool. I walk on that stage and start singing, and one of my mentors, Paul Samwise, Paulie comes over, what they call the voice of God, and goes, "Oh my God, is that Gussie Miller, the Gussie Miller?" Because he didn't know that I could sing like that. And what's funny about it was the woman who had booked me on the show, I was kind of booked as a ringer because she had known me from Natalie Cole's show, Big Break, because I was on that show as well. And she's like, "Well, we need somebody who can really sing, but of course they won't let you say that you're a singer." So I had to come on as an audio engineer. So of course I'm standing there with, one of the many wireless that I'm, an expert at now, obviously. And I'm singing. And of course the crew and some of these people who had known me for 10, 15 years are just, they're like, because what a lot of people don't like to talk about, and I have no problem busting everybody out, that look, artists are not particularly nice to engineers, and engineers are not particularly nice to artists. And that's got to stop. Because
I never, and personally, I just never understood that, because at the end of the day, it's the engineer or the sound person that pretty much controls your destiny for that moment, if not forever. So I have the utmost. I mean, people that I've worked with in engineering, whether it be sound or studio, whatever, it's like, hey, you tell me what you want, not the other way around.
Exactly.
And and you know what I mean? It's relative. But it's like, you control how good I sound or how bad I sound.
Yes. And there are people that I know, I won't name names, that, if you piss them off, you're not going to sound that great that night, which is one of the reasons why I always tell people when I mentor them, whether they are an artist or they're an engineer, always be nice to people. It doesn't hurt to be nice. You can even flex by like, hey, have you considered doing this? Have you tried this? Because one of the things I love about my parents, who by the way, were married for 63 years, loved each other, and were both ridiculously brilliant. My father was a mathematician. My mother was one of the first African-American principals, if not, I think, the first one in Columbus, Ohio. So there's that. So they were no joke. And they taught me, look, always seek knowledge and learn to fall under authority. Because once you learn something, no one can take it away from you. So you can't pretend like you know everything. But when you walk into the room and you start spitting your knowledge, people can kind of tell that you're studied or that you're not studied, that you know or you don't know. You can't fake technical stuff. It either works or it don't.
Right.
You know, it's like working with music. It's like you come in, and I remember Chet Atkins used to say that people ask me, well, do you read music? And I say, yeah, just enough not to affect my singing. You know, I can come in and read the treble clef, but you know, if you want me to write for strings, no, not really. I have a business partner who does that, who, by the way, God bless him, Alessandro Alessandroni Jr., Maestro, who is my man, who is just the bomb. One of my oldest and dearest friends. You know who he is? Yeah, but, you know.
Yes.
And by the way, Alex
Huge
is
fan.
famous for, in case since you mentioned.
Please.
I'm talking, you know, he was the last keyboard player with Natalie Cole. He worked with Babyface for 10 years, 2 tours with Christina Aguilera, Pink, Nelly Furtado. I mean, Blue Cantrell. Pick a black artist. You know, Bobby Brown picked him out of Berklee College of Music. You know,
wow.
He's worked with just basically brothers. And in the words, and I always kind of, you know, joke with him when I say, you know, when I do my Alex impersonation, like, you know, my brother, you know what I'm saying? You know, I have worked with the black people for many years, you know what I'm saying? I am an Italian Negro, you know what I'm saying? And that's okay. Because
and you do that very good, by the way, just so you know.
No, he's real. And you know, because you know, he's no joke.
No, not at all.
He's known in the industry as the glue. Because when he plays, his parts are just like, they just kind of sit in the mix. And also, he has kicked my many times in terms of songwriting, because my Achilles heel as a songwriter, I'm known for melody and for counterpoint and all that stuff, and can arrange pretty well, especially as a guy who is known as a singer. But when I write, often I'll kind of get stuck at the bridge. So he's like my secret weapon, where I'll write a killer chorus and a killer verse and a B section and all that, and get to the bridge. And Alex is the first guy to be like, no, my brother, we need to take it into a new level, like this, you know, and then he just throws these killer changes into the arrangement. Usually there's some kind of inversion, and it's like, and it always takes it up to the next level. We did that recently with my new single, The Last Page, where basically I had heard this song at a songwriting contest called Top Tune, which is started by 2 guys here in Los Angeles. And to make a long story short, heard the song. And the way the contest works is that you get 2 songwriters together, they get on stage, and they pull a title out of a hat, and they have to go backstage and write a song in like 20 minutes and come back and perform it. So in 20 minutes? In 20 minutes, that's right. And so those 2 songwriters, one of them, Alan Roy Scott, who is like a legendary, you know, Motown like songwriter, was actually signed by my music attorney, Lee Young Jr., who was the president of Motown. Yes. Yeah, who's real, right? As you know. Yes. Right, because we have that in common as well. Yes. And then there's a wonderful young songwriter named Anthony Starble, who basically started this song. And I thought, oh my God, what a great song. Had a great hook. And I thought, you know, this is great, except for the song is not done. Can I take this over and finish it? And they were like, sure, why not? Because I don't think they were thinking that anything was going to happen. And then, of course, I, you know, got together with Alex, and boom, we finished the song, and there you have The Last Page. So nice. And to, as you mentioned before, if, you know, you were to put anything up, I would say probably either the standard version, because Last Page is kind of like almost a love ballad kind of a thing, real kind of a smooth groove. It was like my answer to when Forever Plan, which is my first solo record, came out. A lot of people were still trying to figure out, well, is he a pop artist? Is he an R&B artist? Is he a smooth jazz artist? Because I've been known to work with a lot of people who are connected to smooth jazz, you know, like Jay Gore, who's a guitar player, you know, Jay Gore, Mindy Hebert, and Michael Lington, and Dave Koz, and, you know, I mean, he's a monster player. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, a lot of people who know me, and some people who have figured it out because of, there's also way back in the day YouTube video of me and Mindy Hebert, who of course is a legend herself. But Mindy was my first sax player in my band in Los Angeles, so we go way back. And then, of course, Jay worked with her. And then when they kind of parted ways, I stole Jay and said, you know, I want to feature you because I'm a huge fan of guitar. And a lot of people are surprised at that when you are, quote unquote, a black artist, that you would have a lot of guitar on your record. And I'm like, and I remind him, hello, Babyface, who is a guitar player, like, hello. I don't think a lot of people know that Kenny is a guitar player. Yes, very good. Yeah, yes, right. He's stupid. I gotta tell you, and I've always been jealous of guitar players. Number one, because I've always wanted to learn and never got around to it. I got guitars sitting here. I'm going to get around to it. I'm going to do it. But, you know, as far as the guitar players, they can practice anywhere. Yes, they can. Yes, that's one of the reasons why I always have a guitar. And even though, you know, I think I barely made it past second position, I know just enough chords, my bar chords, my open chords, you know, to get the idea across. And then
Okay.
you can then give that to another musician. Say, hey, this is kind of what I was thinking. Blah blah blah.
Gotcha.
Whatever.
And
It's
they
a good
understand
way.
it.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
It's a good way
Okay.
to wrap your head around it. And then also, and probably because of growing up in Ohio, and probably because of being a product of Catholic schools, parochial schools.
Definitely because of.
Well, yeah,
Not
definitely.
probably,
Well, look,
but
I mean, I
definitely
was a
because of.
huge
No, I'm
fan
just
of,
kidding.
and not in any particular order, James Taylor.
Oh.
And there's a whole other thing that comes along with that, because then we'll talk about my James Taylor, connection.
You're killing me now, right? You're totally.
Dude, James Taylor.
All these people that you mentioned, I'm huge fans of.
Fleetwood Mac.
Yes.
Joni Mitchell.
Yes.
Linda Ronstadt.
Yep.
I mean, I listened to all that stuff. Now, of course, I'm sure my parents were like, what's going on with this kid? But of course, when you grew up listening to, Motown and Stevie Wonder, and, my father was a jazzer, so it was Nina Simone, Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, like the real thing,
same.
Right? All the big band singers, including Rosemary Clooney,
oh my
George's
gosh.
aunt,
Yes.
all that.
Yes.
And my father would take us to see all those people, at least the ones that were still alive, when they would come through town. For me, it was like an eye-opening thing when I heard, like Boz Scaggs, The Lowdown, and I heard Jeff Porcaro, playing 2 hi-hat rhythms. And I'm like, what is this? Who is this guy?
Yes. Yeah.
So I had my older brother, who is named Marcus, Marquis, to thank for that experience, because he was a major record collector, and he turned me on to all that music and allowed me to be in his room as the older brother and listen to his stuff. Remember the old giant Koss headphones?
Yes. Yes.
Or the Pioneers that were even bigger. That had like the wings on them,
if they were little, they weren't happy. They gotta be big. They gotta be huge. Right.
That's right. Even though Sennheiser had the super cool ones with the soft yellow,
pads,
it was not the thing at the time. They became a headphone giant. But before that, it was all about the Koss or the Pioneer. So there's that. And then, of course, needless to say, my mother was a huge David Sanborn fan. And of course, at that time, I'm listening to, As We Speak, and I'm listening to all the earlier, Sanborn stuff. And this is way before I got introduced to Marcus. And of course, needless to say, a lot of people know that I work with Marcus Miller, who of course is a legend. And of course, when you sing for Marcus, it's like
no relation, right?
Well, it's funny you should say that. We're actually second cousins, so we are, related.
Okay.
But the point is,
so wait a minute. You said your older brother was Marcus Marq.
Quis. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. And they know each other as well. As a matter of fact, my older brother, who used to be a VP at Chicago State University, actually brought Marcus in to do a masterclass many years ago. So, and I worked for Marcus for probably, almost 10 years.
I was gonna say 10 years, right?
But at least 8 years before I even sang. Because he's like that. And one of the things that I try to tell people is that it's, Marcus exemplified to me, as in Marcus Miller, the legend, the musician, who is way more than a bass player, by the way, who a lot of people don't even know is classically trained as a clarinet player.
Oh, you know what? Wait a minute. You just reminded me. Because one of my all-time favorite albums is Bobby McFerrin. And did he play on that one? Did he play?
Well, I guess it depends which one. I mean, I know that friends.
I can't think of the name of the album. It's easier
to mention records that he's not on than it is to mention records that he's on, because he's on so many records, and his depth and breadth is so large. And I think here's why. It's because, obviously, he was mentored by Miles, but he was also mentored by people like Tommy LaPuma, and he was mentored by, Herbie Hancock, one of the funniest stories, because Marcus always had, the best Miles stories, some of which I'm not allowed to tell. But one of the funniest stories I will tell about Herbie was that, when I started working with Marcus, it was basically like, hey, well, what do you know about this? What do you know about that? And I was actually in Germany when I worked for TC Electronic. I was actually working for TC Works, which is a German end of that company.
Yes.
And I'm over there training. And this was when Marcus was headlong into what would actually end up being M Squared. And Dave Isaac, who was legendary and is a monster engineer, was busy. And Khalid Glover, legendary monster engineer, busy. Dave Hampton, engineer, monster, legend engineer. I mean, all these guys are Grammy winners. They were busy. So basically, as you go down the list and you're looking for technical people who can help you with something, I guess I was at the bottom.
Oh, wow.
And he called me going, hey, man, when are you coming home? I'm like,
what?
I don't know, when do you need me? And that's
Right.
how our association started, because that was back when MIDI was really, really huge, and you had to have a bunch of modules, and you were talking to your computer, and he was using, I think, Paris at the time, which was still all the rage, which was a software package that people don't use anymore, but it sounded a lot like tape. And then he was still using his MPC 60, so there was that, and it was like a whole different time. But I kind of came in as one of his MIDI technicians to help kind of make stuff happen, and then just kind of was like around. And he basically was like, "Look, man, come back down, hang out, keep coming, because that's what mentorship is."
Right, exactly.
Well, how bad do you want it? Okay, well, I'm working with Take 6 next month. Are you going to be around? Yes.
Right.
I'm working with Layla. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there.
You drop everything you're doing. Right.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
absorb,
Exactly.
you soak it up. And of course he would bust your chops, because that's just the way he is, because he's super, super smart, and nothing gets by him. So the funniest stuff comes out of him at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because he's a late person. But I remember one day speaking of Herbie, we were moving some keyboards, and he had I'm talking Rhodes.
Of course,
right. Like a Chroma.
I was going to say, none of them light. None of them light.
No. There was a Yamaha CS80.
Right, exactly.
As a matter of fact, I think we may have been moving the CS80. And we're moving it from one part of the studio, because, Marcus has had several studios. I think I worked in about 3 of them. Right. And we're moving it from one room to the other. And of course, it's heavy.
Of course.
And I'm like, dude, how long have you had these? He said, oh, man, this is not mine. This is Herbie's. And I'm like, yeah, but it looks new, like it's never been played. And he's like, yeah, your stuff looks like that when you're Herbie Hancock.
Wow.
and that always stuck with me, because it's like, he's Herbie Hancock.
Right.
And it's like, and of course, Herbie is the most super cool cat you've ever met in your life. I remember the one time that Marcus played House of Blues, which of course was hilarious, because he didn't sell it out, which is insane, because he's like a legend, and of course is an amazing musician. But it just goes to show how sadly people devalue American jazz by the people who invented it.
Right. But, exactly.
Herbie showed up, and he showed up in like one of those crazy sports cars that he has.
One of those crazy sports cars.
And I'm standing
that
here
he's got.
Herbie Hancock. Does it get any better than this? I'm like, and to know people like Herbie, and to know, I was blessed to know George Duke, really well. As a matter of fact,
another one of my keyboard playing heroes.
Yeah. I met, the amazing Eric Zilber, who's a friend of mine, amazing engineer, through George, who basically had invited me to his house before I moved to Los Angeles.
Nice.
Basically, with me sending him demo, going, hey, you sing really good, and your songs are pretty good, but he's like, I can't help you if you stay in Boston. I was living in Boston at a particular time.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, there's like 10 great singers around the corner, so you have to come here. And he said the same thing that, our mutual friend Lee Young Jr. had said to me, because this is before Lee became officially my attorney. And that's what made me move. So literally, when you get to hang out with people like that,
that are offering advice like that.
Yeah, it's like, I got to watch Marcus mentor Layla Hathaway. This is before all the Grammys and stuff, and she's still super cool.
Another fan.
That's a blessing when you see someone like Layla, and you walk up and you get the hug, and it's like, it's Layla Hathaway, right? And you just to see that brilliance, and to see it up close, and to see it happening as people are singing. I am not lost on the fact that the first time Marcus handed me some music, here, go sing this, you're standing in a spot in front of a microphone, and you're looking through the glass, and there's like Dave Isaac, who is, like 4 Grammys, and then there's Marcus Miller, a bunch of Grammys, and they're like, yeah, okay, sing this.
Sing, right.
Yeah, it's like,
and you got to deliver.
I'm standing where, you know,
Mhm.
Shaka stood. I'm standing where, you know, Al Jarreau. I'm standing where David Sanborn. I'm standing where, you know, Boz Scaggs. I'm standing where, you know, Eric
Mhm.
Clapton. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm. And
In
how do
history.
you get over? I mean, you're in that moment and all that. Needless to say, I mean, it can be intimidating, you know.
Oh no,
So
it's definitely
no,
intimidating. And
right.
I think the thing is that, well, one, you know, when you around talented people, and I've been so blessed to be around talented people, because one of the things that people don't understand, and I've told my kids, both my kids is, I have a 28-year-old and a 23-year-old who are both in the business. And I reminded them that, look, I helped put food on the table, kept the roof over your head by always having a gig doing something. I'm selling, I'm teching, you know, whatever it needs to do to get, I'm singing in an orchestra here, I'm doing a gig in a club there, you know, whatever, because you just got to wrap it together. But then when I would do the music retail or the tech thing, I got to work with, you know, but I mean, I'm trying to think of like a short list. I mean, it always sounds like people say in LA you're name dropping, but I'm like, I don't care.
If
I
you
work with
if
Hans
you work
Zimmer.
with them,
Hans
right,
knows who I am. So it's
right,
like, you know,
right.
when you're in Hans's studio and Hans is like, Gussie, I want you to try this because I know that you can
And
get it. Right.
and before we go any farther, we got to come back to that because I'm also a huge fan of his as well. But anyway, go on.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, you know,
You got to give us a Hans Zimmer
what's
story.
not to love when it's Hans Zimmer, right?
Right, 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 right.
And we will come back to that, and remind me, because
Please,
there's a
thank you.
funny story that goes along with that. So, you know, and at the time I was married, I had, you know, 2 young kids. I mean, and by the way, in between all of that, I'm also performing at Disneyland, and this is before I had actually worked with even Marcus. So, you know, I had done the live performance, you know, playing in Lion King Celebration back in the day, and that always surprises a lot of people. But, you know, once again, in nothing against the Walt Disney Company, even though we have our differences, but let me tell you, talk about a level of excellence and quality. You learn how important the show is. You learn how important rehearsal is. You learn how important presentation is.
Okay, let's go back to that. You learn how important rehearsal is.
Oh,
That part.
yes. Oh, rehearsal is huge.
That part right there.
Yes, and a lot of people forget. You know, and you got to show
They forget or ignore.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah, of course. You know, because a lot of people, sadly, and talented people, as you know, are like this. How many of them do we know? Where there are people that are more talented than you and me put together, but they have horrible follow through and horrible what's the word I'm looking for? Stewardship. Whereas that they, you know, like, you know, I can just play this and I'll run through.
I got it.
No,
I got it.
you
Right.
have
No,
to
you
do
don't.
it a lot of times.
Right. Right.
And you have to be able to produce it on demand and consistently all the time.
To that point, one of my all-time favorite quotes: "Don't practice until you right. Practice until you can't get it wrong."
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So, yeah,
There's that. I mean,
yeah,
so
love it.
so that is huge. And then also too, I think the concept of all the years of being able to be in studios and watch famous people work.
Yes.
Begin to see the difference between people who are comfortable in their gift and people who are not. And I always swayed towards the people who are very comfortable in their gift, because those are the people who are going to open the door for you, because they're not intimidated. And I've worked with a lot of people who, once they found out that I could sing, just stopped talking to me. Okay.
Wow.
So there's that.
And
But
I've been there.
Perfect example is, I would not have gotten on a Marcus Miller record, I don't think, even though I'm, you know, he put me on Everybody Hates Chris and put me in different, you know, movie, you know, things. But it was because of Keb Mo, because I was teching for Keb Mo, who was, of course, a legend in and of himself, multiple Grammy winner, incredible songwriter, the whole bit. And, you know, I was learning about he's like a vegan. So he was, you know, teaching me, like, no, dude, we got to go get some vegan food. I'll get you this killer vegan bacon. I'm like, I had never heard of vegan bacon. Like, are you kidding? You know? And he plays piano as well as guitar. And I remember he sat down at his piano and started playing. He's like, sing. And he just told me to sing. And so I started singing. He said, dude, you have a wonderful voice. Why are you not singing? And I'm like, And I think he was the one who went to Marcus and said, look, okay, I know you want me to do this song in your record. Let's have Gussie do all the backgrounds. So that's how that happened. So that's how Milky Way came about.
Oh, nice.
Because,
nice.
And the funny thing about it is, true story, and I can tell it now because I just don't care. You know, I love Dave Isaac. I love you, Dave. Just see it. I love you, because Dave went just bananas. And the way Marcus and Dave would work is, Marcus, of course, is an amazing producer, but Dave is, in his own right, is also an amazing producer, and they co-produced a lot of stuff a lot of people don't know about. So I would like just sing and sing and sing, and Dave would create all these parts and then just basically present it to Marcus. So we literally get to the mix at Westlake, and we're mixing the song.
Mm-hmm.
And Marcus is like, yeah, it sounds too much like a duet. You know, you got to take some of that stuff off.
What?
So that's kind of how that happened.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you know.
Okay.
And of course, the funny thing about it is, which is like a running joke between the two of us, is like, you know, he forgets I have a camera. So I got a lot of stuff on tape. So, you know, just, you know, one day I'm going to come upon that high 8 to digital.
There you go.
And then it's all over with, you know, because the one thing from my previous life, which I can't talk about, we were taught to archive everything.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So there's that.
And I have seen you walk around with the camera too. So
yes, exactly. Oh, I'm all about the camera. Yes. So there's that. But you know, the thing about it is that's what I tell people when I meet them and I can help them. And I think people are shocked that I will go as far as I will go, because what I think a lot of people forget is, if you are a young kid and you have a dream, to be able to sing in some of the places I've sung in, be able to sing on records and television shows and movies, and, you know, have music that's played all around the world. And I get emails every day from some other place, or somebody following me, whatever, you know, and it's not so much about how big your social media numbers are, because I don't really put a lot of stock in that, because a lot of people buy them. You know, if you've got 1.7 million, you know, people following you on Instagram, a lot of people bought those people. So I'm not worried about that. I worry about the people who actually follow me in the 3,000 to 5,000 range, that actually talk to me. And are fans of mine, like all the people who are working my new record now, the stuff that's out on SNS, or all people that I've known for years that I met through social media, who are playing me in Brazil and playing me in Germany and playing me in France and playing me in the Netherlands. Those are people. Oh, and I can't even forget my friend Nick Skur, who is in the Isle of Wight in the UK, promoting the crap out of my stuff. So I'll take that more than a million people who don't really interact with me.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? So there's that. And I have always thought that the best way of using your gifts are, if you're talented at something, help somebody else who's talented at something fulfill their dream. Because to me, it's like people talk about money, and, you know, of course, money is called currency. To me, it's one of those universal laws. If you give it away, it comes back to you. If you hoard it, it ain't coming back to you. It's like electricity. It's a circuit. So like when you have a gift, you give your gift away.
There you go.
And then it will come back to you, because
and boy, will it come back.
You're doing it for the right reason. This person can sing their butt off. Let me help them. This person can write their butt off. Let me help them. This person is an incredibly talented technician. Let me plug them into some people. And sadly, some of that will come back to you, and they'll say, yeah, you know, this is tough business, or this didn't work out, or that person's hard to deal with. And I'm like, yeah, well, talented people typically are. And it doesn't matter if they're musically talented, technically talented. You know, most of the geniuses I know are hard to handle. So there's that. And this business is chock full of them. That's the other thing too, is it will humble you, because, you know, I'm a member of an organization called Hollywood Sapphire Group, which a lot of people have not known and don't know about. But basically, Hollywood Sapphire Group is full of Grammy, Emmy, Oscar, you know, winners. And it's, I mean, I guess I could name a few names. I mean, the great Aspen Pittman, who created Groove Tube, is a member of Hollywood Sapphire. Eve Anna Manley, who's one of the inventors of the Manley Labs, is a member of Hollywood Sapphire. Michael Boddicker, the keyboard player, like legendary keyboard player. It's like a chair right now. You know, I mean, Alan Howarth, you know, the composer, is a member of Sapphire. So when you're in a room with people like that, you walk in like, well, you know, I've done a few things, but nothing like this, because, you know, sitting next to an Oscar winner, or like a multiple Grammy winner, or, you know, like I'm trying to think of somebody else that you would ring a bell. You know, this, I mean,
Michael Boddicker. I mean, he's a keyboard giant. Like I said, I was huge fan.
Of course. But I mean, but there's so many people that you get to sit and talk with. Same thing with, you know, I'm blessed to be a member of a thing called the Audio Lunch Bunch. And one of the people that shows up at the Audio Lunch Bunch all the time is Al Schmidt. So, you know, when you're talking to Al Schmidt and you become friends with Al Schmidt, you're like, what have I done? You know, I just sit like this. I'm like,
right.
Teach me, Al.
That's all you can do. Be a good student. That's all you can do.
Yeah, because he's done everything. You know, I mean, all the way back to like Sam Cooke, and, you know, Nat King Cole, and, you know, Frank Sinatra, to like Toto Records, and he recorded the new version of Unforgettable. Right. How many Grammys was that? Right.
I got to ask you, I mean, because you're talking about like a lot of people that you work with over the years. First of all, I mean, I'm not going to get into your age, but dude, that you had time to like actually sit and learn like all this stuff. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that's like a better education than most universities. you know.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because first of all, thank you. I'm blessed, and I will say that it's funny how, you know, we all deal with stuff. This is one of the other things that I learned from Marcus, that, as in Marcus Miller, that he taught me and exemplified all the time. It really doesn't matter how talented you are if you're not open to learning new things.
Thank you.
If you're not open to dealing with your own personal things, working through them and making yourself the best that you can be. And one of the things I learned from him is that, you know, you got to take care of your body. You know, you have to eat right.
Good point.
You know,
Good
you
point.
can't, you know,
which a lot of people
like,
do
he
forget.
does not drink, you know, so there's that. You know, I mean, Marcus being on like a bender, he might have a Pop-Tart, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
That amount of sugar will definitely affect him, you know. Like I learned to love Japanese tea because one of his assistants for many, many years, you know, like Right Arms is a guy named Takamasa Honda Haitaka, if you're in Japan. And he had the coolest Japanese tea. And of course you smell it, it smelled like booty, you know, and you're like, I'm not drinking that. No, you have to try it. So and I would drink it. Oh, now I get it. So it's just the cleansing of your body, the being healthy. You know, I'm a short sleeper. I have a very strong suspicion that Marcus is also a short sleeper. So therefore, to your point, how do I get a lot done? I sleep 5 hours a night. If I sleep more than 5 hours a night, then I'm what is called rest broken. And I've always been like that.
Rest broken?
Yes, literally. Like sluggish the whole day. Okay. So if I fall asleep at midnight, I wake up at 5. That's it. It's not like a lot of people say, well, he's an old guy, so he's got to go to the bathroom. No, that's not it. My bladder works just fine. Thank you very much. It's just the way my brain works. The other thing is that.
And has this always been, or did this come to be?
Pretty much. It always has been. My mother used to call it having the 24-track mind. And she would tell me you have to slow your tape down, and you have to choose which track you're going to be on now, because you can fire on all of those.
Great advice.
But right now, we need you to focus on this one.
One track, right?
So learning, how, and seriously, and that was actually one of the things that led me to drumming, was that a lot of people are always surprised at the stuff I've accomplished and all the stuff that I know, but they don't realize that, you know, I'm an advocate for brain health. I'm an advocate for learning disabilities, because I was actually diagnosed with a learning disability as a child. So my mother was a person who shepherded me through that. And we used to actually get on the floor and do clapping and tapping exercises and so on and so forth, which are helpful. You know, for your brain.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why my brain fires so fast, is that I found the secret to making my brain work the way it's supposed to. And a lot of people don't understand is when you are really smart, it can handicap you if you don't know how to handle it. One of the other things I learned is that even though people say, well, you know, he's got a lot to say, I don't ever say what I'm thinking. Because most people can't take it, you know. So what you learn to do is you learn to self-edit. I also learned to take a lot of input, and then I weigh the decision to, okay, if I say this, it might be true, but that's a bridge that I may have to burn. And then you have to decide, is this important to me? Do I care? Which is one of the reasons why, I recently did an article interview where someone had asked me a bunch of questions. So I pretty much just told them, this is how it is. I'm really blessed to have worked with these people. I'm really blessed to have worked with these people, but I will not let anybody take advantage of me. I will let anybody not pay me. I will not let anybody, you know, treat me with disrespect. That's not going to happen, you know, because, you know, I was born back in the day, you know, and I'm a child of the civil rights struggle. So therefore, especially in today's society, as you know, that's right. No, this is how it is. Yes, we need more representation. Yes, we need more Black people. Yes. And by the way, I am typically the first African-American to have done most of the things I've ever done.
Wow.
That includes being like the head technical person on a major television show. And, you know, they might think they're doing me a favor. No, you're not doing me a favor. This is a contract. You need to pay me, and this is what the contract says. So pay
me. And you worked for that. You know,
damn skipping. So, that's right. So that's the other thing too, is, and teaching people, sometimes you have to teach them, as some of my legal friends will tell you, you have to teach them by telling them, no, you can't do this. This is not how you treat people. And I'm going to stand because my shoulders are broad enough so that you never get to treat anybody else like this again. There are some people who shall remain nameless, Gino Vanelli, who did not pay me.
I was going to come to that too.
And I have his check on the wall, because like, nah, brother. You're a giant. I love your voice. I'm honored to sing with you, but you got to pay me. And that's how that went. And that 30 years later, I'm still kicking his butt on it, because, you know, he's a great
I'm another fan. I'm a huge fan.
But it's like, hey man, I'm sorry.
But that was a disappointing story. I'm like, really?
You know, so it's like, and you know, and then, you know, widely known among people to be that way. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going out like that. You know, my band will tell you, and I'm not ashamed to say it. You know, I've been successful enough to have a large band, a bunch of famous musicians. I'm talking world-class musicians in my band. And there are times when, and I'll name names, you know, Herman Matthews, Jay Gore, Edwin Livingston, you know, Noriko Uling. I'm talking great musicians have had to say, Gussie, did I get paid? You know, like, oops, I forgot. Because, you know, I suck at managing money. So I've actually even had to hire people in the past to be like, hey, can you take care of this for me? Because my brain is on a whole other thing and I'll forget.
Right.
But I always pay my debts. That's it. Got to pay the band, you know, because I'm never going to treat anybody like I have been treated.
Thank you.
Or even have to like argue with people. I've worked for major orchestras, you know, some of them who shall remain nameless, and you have to like argue with them like, really, is this what I'm worth to you? I can go do something else. Which is one of the reasons why my solo career became so important to me, is that I got tired of singing other people's music and making them money. Now it's time for me to sing my music and make some money. And then also help other people bring their dreams to fruition. Because even though our mailbox money, as you know, as they say, you know, our ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and I'm a CSAC writer, you know, our PROs aren't necessarily able to garner as much income from streaming because, you know, Spotify, you know, Google, right? You know, I mean, Tidal, thank you, JC. Thank you. You know, I mean, Tidal pays the best, right? But of course, it all right now is all about Spotify. And even though you get that kick of, oh, I've got so many, you know, 24,000 listeners on Spotify. Well, that's nice. But you know,
right. And that's pretty much what it is. Oh, that's nice.
That's it. Whatever, you know, I mean, I'm not even sure how that works, you know, when you own, you know, copyright, like, well, perfect example, like, you know, song like, you know, any of those things from Switch, you know, that's been out there for years. It's a classic. It's played on and on and on and on. I can't even imagine what that check should look like.
And you just nailed it. What it should look like.
Right.
You just nailed it.
You know, terrestrial radio is pretty much dead. And even though the Music Modernization Act, of which I am very proud to be a Grammy advocate and been part of helping to push that through, because I will get in the car and I will drive to Sacramento. I will get in the car or I'll get on a plane and go to Washington, whatever, because I'm of the belief that, look, everybody loves music. Everybody remembers what song was playing the first time you kiss somebody. Doesn't matter whether you're gay, straight, black, white, whatever. It's music is the soundtrack to everyone's life.
Thank you.
And I refuse to allow people to devalue it because, you know, it's like we say in audio. You know, sometimes you joke because, you know, I was a member of Local 695 for many, many years. So we'd be standing there talking to the guys from Local 600 who are the camera people who basically rule Hollywood, and people don't understand it. People think the directors rule it, but no, the camera department rules Hollywood. So there we are, and we're at lunch, and we'd be joking like, yeah, you know, you audio guys, blah, blah, and we remind them, hey, what did they call it? They think they call this a sound stage. Right. Let's try doing this show without the dialogue.
And like you said, we talked about that earlier. You know, kudos to the sound people, to all those people who take care of that.
Exactly.
You know, because you pretty much rule the world.
Exactly. Because you know, a 4K picture is a beautiful thing. I love it. You know, but let's try that without the audio. You know, even was it The Artist that won the Academy Award, and it was a silent film, right? It had music.
Right.
You know, so there you go. And speaking of, now you mentioned you want to get back to Hans. Hans Zimmer is one of my favorite composers, you know, like ever. But everybody knows, if you study classical music, and I have, that we all borrow from the great masters. So when you look at what Hans does, it's not dissimilar to what, you know, I just forgot his name, who did Star Wars. Shoot.
George Lucas?
No,
John Williams?
Yeah, John Williams, that's right. It's not dissimilar to what John Williams did, and it's not dissimilar to what Ennio Morricone did, and it's not dissimilar to, you know, and of course they all drew from, you know, Beethoven and Bach and Rachmaninoff and so on, because, you know, that's, you know, we're talking about European music. Now, when you start talking about James Newton Howard,
shout out to all those those composers, by the way.
Yes, I mean, I'm a huge James Newton Howard fan, because he was one of the first guys to bring in the African and the Latin percussion, make it really prominent in the mix.
Yes, same here. I love these names you're mentioning, because you're totally taking me back. Like, oh yeah, man.
God. I mean, because
I remember all of them.
A lot of people are surprised, because I think people think that if you are a pop musician or you do dance music, like, because I now have a dance music career, because I'm you know, on a dance label, you know, SNS. Right. Shout out to SNS Records. And you know, Steve is a brilliant man. Same thing with DJ Skip and Zonum. and Eddie Amador, who I love.
Mm. Right.
Mad love
Right.
to you, Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
Because if anybody had told me that there was a huge worldwide international door that could be opened by doing a remix
Right.
of like a pop song, I would have done it years ago. So it's just funny how that works. But to me, it's all just encompassing music as a thing, for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that I think that I always try to bring to anybody that I'm working with or anybody that I'm mentoring. Both my kids feel it as well. I have I have millennials, so basically they're very much into hip hop. My son likes to torture me with stuff that I would never listen to. With words that I'm like, did he just rhyme?
Right.
In the car the other day, I'm like, did he just? And it was some, and I thought, well, that's banal. But and then all he did was he just nodded his head. That's right. And his point was, he's like, Dad, this guy could like buy and sell you. And I'm like, I get it.
Right. Right.
Because they make so much money at that.
And that's a shame too, because when he's just made that point, he can buy and sell you, and it's like, man, he's right too.
Right. It's rough. It's hard to take. But I have decided, and I still use this as like a barometer, and you'll get this because you're a master musician.
Thank you.
Maestro.
Thank you.
Look, what do you want to be known for, and whose music will they be playing in a high school band arrangement when you're dead? Trust me, the thing I love about anything that Beyonce puts out, there's going to be a high school band arrangement of that. So because there's melody there. That's the thing. I go back to that. It's the melody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really
I'm from that school. It's so funny because we just had this conversation the other day as far as like the songs that are still being played from when we were kids. I mean, you mentioned these songs are still being played. And I wonder how many of these songs that are coming out now are going to be played 50, 100 years from now.
Exactly.
Now.
I mean, I'm the biggest fan.
I'll go as far as to say, I bet those songs that we were, grew up with will still be played then.
Yes, I believe so. I mean, perfect example is if you go back to some of the most famous rap songs, at least in terms of the early days of rap, if they're taking a sample of a James Brown song, or they're taking a sample of a Bill Withers song, they're taking a sample of whatever. I mean, there's so many songs that Janet Jackson, whom I have ultimate respect for, people didn't even realize that Terry and Jimmy had taken samples of Papa Don't Take No Mess, put it in That's the Way Love Goes, right.
And of course right, and of course Sly and Rhythm Nation, of course.
Of course, that's right. And so to me, it's like, yes, that's brilliant, because you're taking sample technology and you're adding a killer gigantic melody,
totally
cool lyrics on top. So it's is melodious a word? Melodic.
Yes.
I just made that up.
Hey, it works.
That's right. So I feel like if I can just make a little dent, just a little dent, it's kind of like I have I won't call his name, but I have a hometown friend who has a Wikipedia mention, and that seems to have gone to his head. Now, I have not launched my Wikipedia yet, but I can imagine, as you know, through this conversation, how many pages mine is going to be just from the music thing alone, let alone the TV thing. And I haven't even begun to talk about, we mentioned James Taylor. I'm doing a band project with Leland Sklar, which is like, he's like a living legend. And if that's not bad enough, he's the nicest guy in the world.
The best.
And it all came about because it wasn't that like he was doing it and asked me to do it. It was like Jay Gore, who is a monster, amazing guitar player, is all over my record, Forever Plan. And Chad Wright, who is, oh my God, this incredible grooving drummer who is working with like Bruce Hornsby, and he was a drummer for the Jacksons for years and stuff. Nice. And once again, the super nicest guy who is married to my arranger / sometimes keyboard player, Noriko Uling, who is, Shaka Khan. I mean, matter of fact, she's working with Shaka now. So how bad is she? Mickey Howard, and they're like, hey, we're going to redo Easy Lover. Okay. All right. Who's going to sing the other part? Because I'm thinking they want me to sing the Philip Bailey part.
Right.
I'm blessed to know Philip through his wife, Valerie, Bailey, who love you, Val. Talk about a woman of God who will just set your heart on fire and can sing her ass off, because she's all over Verb Plan as well.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, who's going to sing the other part? And they're like, well, why don't you sing both? Okay, so all right. And I said, well, who's going to play bass? They said, well, we don't have a bass player. And I actually called Nathan East first. Actually, I sent him an email, but I didn't hear back because, you know, Nathan East.
Yeah, Nathan is Nathan. Right? He's all over the place.
He's one of the co-writers of the song, right?
All right.
So I called Lee Sklar. And I'm like, hey, man, because we had met through a recording academy. That's the Grammys for you folks who don't know. At you know, a Grammy event. And he's like, yeah, Gussie, I'd love to do that. I like how you sing it. Oh, well, thank you, man. I'm kidding. And, you know, it's like a list. It's like credits.
Right.
Like a movie of all the stuff he's played on.
Right.
A lot of people think it begins and ends with James Taylor, you know, because he's played on Your Smiling Face and he's playing on, you know, so many great, you know, James Taylor songs.
Right. Right.
But aside from the stuff that he did with, you know, Russ Kunkel and Waddy and those guys, like in the section, he's in a new band called The Immediate Family, which is basically all those guys, you know, plus I think Steve Postel is playing keyboards in that band, and just amazing. But, you know, the Phil Collins stuff, the Toto stuff, I fell literally out of my chair when I was watching his YouTube channel, who has like something stupid like 139,000 subscribers. And by the way, just won this big podcasting award.
Nice.
Because he played on mahogany. Right?
Wow.
Right. And if that's not bad enough, is so cool because he's been around for so long. He tells me these stories like him touring with these original, like, you know, rhythm and blues artists, the black artists. His friends, like his white friends, would come into town to see the band, and they'd like go to the hotel like the white folks stay and be like, no, I'm over here in the black part of town with the band.
Right.
You know? And I'm like, oh my God, how cool is he? You know, so that's the thing that makes me just light up with like electric energy, because that kind of success and the name recognition that Lee has, he graciously extends that to you. Like, of course, I'm going to play on it. Yeah, we'll put it on my channel. Everything's cool. So now I got even more international fans from people going, oh my God, who's that guy singing with Lee? Wow. So I got on there and answered these people, and they're just the nicest people, because he has like his own kind of like universe, because he's been around the world umpteen times playing with James and with Phil Collins and with Toto and with, you know, so I'm like honored.
Wow. I'm sure. I got to ask you, going back, I mean, and of course, like you said, I mean, it's not name dropping. I mean, all the people that you work with and all that stuff and legitimately worked with. When you look at like the time that we're living in right now, as far as CDs and all that stuff that are coming out, I'm sure you remember back when we were back in the day, and I spoke at this point to some of the other guests that we've had on. Careers were made on album credits. I mean, there was the person that was on the front, because a lot of the people that you mentioned, it's like, man, there's so many, and I wish people knew who these people were. Exactly. These people were very, very important to our coming out. What do you think of, not this, I mean, streaming is a good thing, and I mean, downloads are a good thing, but we don't get to see like the recording credits like we used to do back in the day. And I'm sure you remember where, you know, you get an album and all that, and you pretty much put the record on, and then you sit and you pretty much read the book of album credits. Of course.
I was the king of that. That's funny. That's how I met Tristan Bowden, was that I knew he was the drummer. And I'm not even sure exactly how it happened, but I was backstage at the Ohio State Fair, and he was just there, and I was like, oh, you're Tristan Bowden. And he was like shocked that I knew who he was. Wow. And just got to talking. And then, of course, you know, followed his career through a few different bands. Right. And way before Chicago too. And I'm talking because he played with Al Jarreau. A lot of people forget.
Yes, I know.
And then came to my hometown and was playing with Al Jarreau. That's a funny story. I should tell you about that one time. But anyway, to your point, yes, there's two things that have happened to me that have been very pivotal, because once again, especially because of the Gino thing, because Gino never officially gave me credit for singing on Inconsolable Man. I actually sang on 3 of the tracks.
There was so much of that going on back in the day,
too. But
I'm a victim of the same thing.
Of course. Dude, same thing with Cher. I mean, the whole deal with that. But here's the thing. There are a couple of digital services that have started to work around that. And one of them is able to just like, nope, you know, we have proof here that he sang on it, so we're going to put him on the credits. One of those is called Muso AI. And it's an iPhone app. AI. Is that Muso AI? M-U-S-O AI. Okay. And it's the coolest thing in the world, because it is a digital online kind of a profile thing. And they follow Spotify, they follow Tidal, they follow Apple Music, all that blah, blah. And basically, if you're on something and there's like any proof that you're on it, they post it up there. So that's one of the reasons why they stuck Gino's record up there, because like he's like, well, you got any proof? I'm like, yeah, I sent him the check.
There you go. There you go.
Take care of that. So, you know,
wow.
he can try and diss me all he wants to, but I'm gunning for all the people who like, yes, thank you for taking advantage of my voice and my, you know,
excellent.
I'm known for my range, you know,
Excellent.
because I have, for the most part, actively a 4-octave range. Sometimes up in the falsetto range, I can take it up, you know, a little higher. But the point is that, yeah, I know I don't quote unquote sound like I look, whatever that means. Because that reminds me of no, seriously, no, really.
Right.
It's so funny because look, talk about people that I know. Yes, I'm blessed to know an incredible engineer producer by the name of Shelly Yakis. And Shelly's an amazing guy. And Shelly's a member of both of those organizations that I mentioned earlier. And I met him through a guy who used to be the head of promotion at A&M Records. Okay. And when I was brought to A&M as an artist, you know, his name was Charlie Miner, by the way, God rest his soul. He's no longer with us. Charlie's like, no, this guy is the real thing. Okay. And a lot of the A&R department they didn't really quite get it because they're like, well, I don't know. We don't know how to sell him because, you know, he doesn't sound like a black guy. Like, what does that mean?
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Because Lionel sound that black,
right.
Know? And more importantly, does who's that the Kelly chick that's on Motown? Does she sound that black? The white chick? No, people sound like they sound. You know, just
that's it. They sound like they sound. Right.
Exactly.
Right. That's
it's
it.
like when I heard Anastasia the first time, I was driving on the Autobahn in Germany, and I did not think she was black, but I thought, well, this girl can sing her booty off because I heard not that kind.
And shouldn't that be the thinking? Shouldn't that always be the thinking? You know, like the whole chart thing and all that stuff. There's the R&B chart and the pop chart and all that stuff. So what does that mean? Isn't it all music? It's all music.
So all I learned from Shelly at that time was like, look, you have some great compositions here. They're a little long. Let me edit it so they get it. And he did that for me, not because they paid him and he was on the staff. He did that because he liked me. He's a nice guy. Every time I see him, I thank him.
What a concept.
Yeah.
He did it because he's a nice guy.
Yeah. You know,
and he wasn't looking for a check. He wasn't looking for this and that and the other. If a check comes, fine.
Yeah, that's right. Here's that guy. Here's that kid who would not give up. I think that was when I was 20 something. And I'm now 50 something. Right. Yeah. So, you know, that's what I'm known for is that, well, he won't quit and he won't go away.
There you go.
And that's what I tell people all the time. That's what success is. I had a brilliant person tell me once, success is like a grocery line. That basically, if you get out of place, they move on to the next one. Well, what happened to him? Well, he got to, you know, my wife, you know, my kids, the job. Well, you know what? You work around all that. You know, you can, because, you know, it's like you hear it in country stories a lot for country artists where they talk about, you know, 1 week, you know, they got their car repossessed. The next week they have a #1 country record. Well, it's because they put that 20 years of work into it. And if you go down to Nashville, as I have many times as a technician, as a background singer, whatever, it's always the pool guy, you know, the guy fixing your garage door, you know, they're all songwriters.
Yeah. Yes.
Some of them more talented than others.
But, and I was going to say, someone don't even know it.
That's right. That's right. You'd be surprised. You know, I mean, it's like, I remember it always amazed me that, like, you know, obviously being a big Harrison Ford fan, even though I don't know if I would fly with him, Harrison, you know, was like a carpenter for years. And when that came out, I was like, see, that makes sense.
That's funny. I didn't know that. And now thinking about it, I was like, I could totally see that. I could totally see it. Yeah.
You know, and there's so many talented people that I know who, you know, it's the work ethic of pushing and keeping going that has gotten them to the place that they are. And the ones that I respect the most are the ones who always want to bring people along. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, at least for the most part, since I think we actually cut Forever Plan around the end of 2011 or 2012. Then it kind of sat for a while until Mike Fennell, who is a staff engineer at Universal Music Publishing, and I got together, and he said, you know, I think I can help you get this finished. And I was like,
wow.
Okay. And that's kind of how we did it, you know. So,
Got it.
And then it finally came out in 2016. And then, you know, you get on the Grammy ballot, it makes a little bit of noise, people hear you, and they kind of know that you're real. And what's even funnier than that is that in this day of, like you said, with credits and stuff, you know, I was hell bent on making sure that everybody knew who had put their time in on this record who played on it. So I went to town, put it up digitally, put it on my old website. I need to actually put up another page on my new website.
Which is
about the record.
Your new website?
GussieMiller.com. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. So and I'm also blessed with, once again, I have that unique name, which is Gussie. No, it's not short for anything. And people always ask me that. What is your real name? My legal name is Gussie. It was my grandfather's name. My father's name was Manuel.
That's interesting. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. My
grandfather was Gussie, and I was named after my father's father.
Awesome.
So yeah. So as a matter of fact, the new record that we're working on right now, that Alex and I are working on. Alex probably thinks I have forgotten, and I'm not working on it, but I actually am. I like to call myself the Black Peter Gabriel, because it takes a long time to churn out material. I write from two places. I write from falling in love or falling out of love.
Okay, but the end result is
joy, pain. It's like Frankie Beverly. Joy,
there it is.
And pain, right?
There it is.
Which, by the way, changed my world when I heard that record, man. The live record that he did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All over with.
Yeah.
Because see, I hadn't even heard the recorded versions of the songs when my brother had that record, and I put it on. I'm like, who is this? This is because he just had that cool thing about his voice, like Southern Girls and I mean, just so many great songs, and the fact that it was a live record. Forget it.
Got it.
So yeah, to your point, Muso AI, and then also one of the things that frustrates me is I think it's Discogs easy to deal with. The other one is, what's the other one called?
Oh shoot, was it American Music or something like that? I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I forgot the name of it. I think it's owned by the people who own Amazon now.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
In the world to get.
I can't think of the name of it. Right,
but that one, you have to provide so much. Yeah, send us a CD and send it. I'm like, hello, it's everywhere in the world. And in order to get on there, and I think some people don't realize how much stuff I'm on because I haven't been able to get all of that stuff out there. So I started literally just doing it myself and sticking it up, on my website, and I'm here, I'm on there, blah blah, and so on and so forth. And to me, it's like my thing is the good and the bad part, I think. And I think we're going to find, to your point, we're going to find that a lot of artists are going to stop doing that because, needless to say, litigation will get you together because, all those masters for the most part are still out there. Some of those things can be subpoenaed, and we have technology now, well, who is that singing? I can go all the way back to Yvette Marine, who people have probably forgotten about, but I never forgot about it with the Paul Abdul thing. Because like, nah, that's me.
Right. Wow. Good point. Good point.
Right.
Good point.
I remember the Milli Vanilli thing.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I'm a huge Scritti Politti fan, and I think people get them confused. Milli Vanilli, Scritti Politti. I'm like,
you're killing me.
Right. And talk about your great people, by the way. David Gamson, who is a friend of mine, and very hard to get a hold of. Yes, that's right, David. I adored all the stuff he did for Scritti, and the stuff he did for Shaka, and the stuff he did for Luther, and the stuff he did for Michel and Deggiocello. Just bad. If that's not bad enough, all you need is just that. Talk about consistency. Everybody knows about Scritti if you're in the business, but a lot of people don't realize that he wrote Stronger for Kelly Clarkson.
I didn't know that.
You only need one of those.
Wow. That's all I've said. I used to say that all the time. You only need one. You only need one.
That's right.
Wow. Gussie, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gussie Miller. You can find him at GussieMiller.com. Check out his newest CD called?
The single is called The Last Page. And that's the single. And then there are remixes done by S&S Records. Awesome. And we have an Eddie Amador mix. We have a Steve Silk Hurley mix. We have the DJ Zona mix, and we have the DJ Skip mix as well. So there's the two new things. And then the forthcoming record is called My Name is Gussie. And that's the follow-up to my first record, Forever Plan.
Awesome. His real name, Gussie.
That is my real name. That's right. My name is Gussie. Gussie
Miller on the playground with me, your host, Eddie Fluellen. Player to player. Gussie, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Until next time, my friend. All right.